Hello and welcome to another episode of Transcontinental Overload. I'm Stephanie, your host, and I have a great new episode for you today. My guest is the wonderful Sophie Durre, who I found here in Austin at work. And when we met, I didn't have the slightest idea that she was in fact a very cosmopolitan, multilingual, third culture kid. But before we dive into our chat, I am very happy to say that I have a sponsor for today's episode. And it is a previous guest on the show, Nate from roomsteals.com. If you haven't listened to his expat adventures in France, you can do so with episode number 13, Lessons from a Failed Expat. So Nate founded Roomsteals, which is essentially a subscription service that can save you up to 75% of the usual hotel rates that you find when you book with Expedia, Booking.com, etc. How it works, you sign up for free, get to browse all the hotels that you're interested in all over the world. And once you're ready to book your hotel, you get charged a $59 subscription fee. This is an annual fee, and you can make as many hotel bookings as you want during that year. This is such a great concept for us expats and travelers. Those trips back home to see friends and family aren't cheap. And sometimes we have to travel unexpectedly. We have to get back for something, maybe a wedding that we'd love to go to. But it's in addition to our annual trip. And so it's always amazing if we can spend less and still get to see everyone. Or maybe your friends and family want to come and visit you, but you can't accommodate everyone. And so knowing that you can find a nice room at a very low rate is wonderful. Anyway, check out roomsteals.com. You can ask them anything before you sign up. Nate is lovely and will answer all your questions. Right, let's move on to today's episode and my conversation with Sophie. As I said before, Sophie is a true TCK. And just to recap, here is one of the definitions of a TCK. Third culture kids are individuals who are raised in a culture other than their parents or the culture of their country of nationality, and also live in a different environment during a significant part of their child development years. Sophie went to high school and college here in Texas, but prior to that, she lived in Italy for several years with her anthropologist mom and Italian stepdad. So basically, I had no idea she had that background, and she just sounded like any other 20-something American girl. And then one day I overheard her speak Italian on the phone. And of course, I pounced on her to find out more, and she had this absolutely amazing family story involving various countries and languages. And we started chatting and then ended up being late for our shift. And of course, I had to have her on the show to share her story. So here it is. Let's hear Sophie's story. Let's dive right in. Welcome, Sophie.
Hi.
It's so funny to be doing this because we know each other from work, but this is a very different setting. And
yeah,
I think initially it was interesting because I had no idea about your background, because to me you were just one of the girls. There was no accent or anything that would alert me to the fact that there might be some other cultures involved, but you are actually a real third culture kid, a TCK.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such a complicated story that whenever I barely even mention it, then people get so interested but also confused that I have to kind of explain the whole thing. Otherwise it just won't make sense. There's no easy way to just kind of drop that into the conversation because I don't have an accent whatsoever. It's just funny anytime I say that. They're like, what do you mean? And then I have to go into it, but I don't mind at all.
And also it's because I find this same thing in a way where people say, so where are you from, or where's your accent from? And it's like, well, it's such a long story. Do you really want to hear it? Yeah, expat stories. Some expat stories, and especially TCK stories, can be really complicated, and I guess it's really difficult to sum yourself up in just one little snippet.
True.
But let's try it anyway, if you don't mind. Maybe not in a nutshell, but if you could give us a little background and maybe include your parents' backgrounds as well, because that's all part of it.
Yeah.
And then where you used to live and how come you're here in Austin
Mhm.
now. Let's hear your story.
Yeah, so my parents are definitely part of it to the most degree that you can even involve them, because my biological father is half Belgian and half Greek. He lived there, he grew up in Europe pretty much exclusively, but at the same time not, because he moved around quite a bit as well. His story is extremely complicated, but not really. I can explain it as best as possible here. His father was a Belgian diplomat, and he moved to, I think it was Rhodes, Greece during, I'm not sure exactly the year, but it was around the time post World War II era. And he met my Greek grandmother, and they ended up falling in love and getting married. And my dad and his older brother were born as a result. And they moved right after that, I believe, to Libya, where they stayed there for quite some time. And he grew up going to, I think, an English-speaking school there.
Mm-hmm.
However, he spoke Arabic as a result of living there.
Mm-hmm.
And at home, he learned French and Greek from his parents. Yet, to communicate with one another, his two parents spoke Italian. So that was already 5 for him.
Wow.
So that's just my dad. And he learned those languages as a child. So obviously they're very, very integral to him. And he's still very fluent in all of those.
Yeah.
And
just probably just what's normal to him growing up.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So when he got older, they moved to Italy at one point and stayed in Milan. So whenever he speaks Italian, he has a Milanese accent, which is kind of cute. I'm just like, oh boy. It's funny when we're talking together because people don't realize when we're in Italy that they see the relation, but they're like, why does he sound like he's from Milan and you sound like you're from Tuscany? And I'll get to that. But essentially, he picked up a couple more languages, I think, throughout just curiosity and interest. And it's once you have that many under your belt, you kind of start to learn. Like Spanish was not hard for him. He picked that one up super quick. But he decided he wanted to go to university in America because, especially during those times, the American dream and going to a college there, it was such a big draw. And so he made his way to Houston, Texas, and eventually up to College Station, Texas, where he went to Texas A&M University, and he met my mom.
That's so interesting because, I mean, Houston, I totally understand for an international person, but College Station is probably as Texan and non-international as you can get.
Exactly. He was going for university for like engineering and stuff. I'm so bad at remembering exactly what it was he studied, but he went for that, yet his job on the campus was TAing for the Italian department. And in the academics building is where he met my mom because she was studying anthropology. Haha. So that's where they met, and they met in the 80s, like early 80s, and they got married, I think, in 1983, but it wasn't until about 12 years later that they had me. We did not last as a family unit for very long. About 6 months into my existence, they divorced, and my mom moved back in with her parents, who live here in Austin, and they are Texan as can be. I don't quite know 100% what everybody is, but someday I will sit down with them and figure it all out because I'm curious. But
yeah, you never know.
My biological dad is obsessed with genealogy. He loves it. It's his favorite calling, pastime, hobby, whatever, but it's more like a job for him at this point.
Well, I guess with all those different countries and languages and places, that sounds like a big project.
Yeah, he's basically compiling a database for all of our extended family to kind of know the history. And he's gotten as far back as I want to say the 1400s, maybe something like that.
And
but he's going through documents that are in this old like church script German, and like because he reads German now, he learned it just so that he could figure this stuff out, and he's
of course he did.
Of course he did.
So where is he now?
He is in Houston, and now he is also currently remarried to a French lady who I love. She's super sweet. She's taught me some of the best recipes ever that I could have ever learned. And I have 2 younger siblings now, little ones, little babies. They're 10 and 5. Or no, she just turned 6.
And how many languages do they learn from that age on?
Are struggling a little bit because they're in America to pick them up. It's harder to convince kiddos here, I think, to learn, especially now at this time, because they're just at home. And you'd think, oh, well, they could just speak French to them at least. And I think they do that, but they're still stubborn and trying to answer in English, that sort of thing.
It's very hard. I mean, having done that myself or tried to do it myself with my children, I can only empathize. It's not an easy thing. It doesn't, because people always seem to think, oh, you'll just pick up the language. No. and it's just not that.
A little more complicated than that.
A little bit more complicated than that. Although, like you said, it's like once you've opened your mind up to it, and you kind of, and some people just are into languages and having that.
I pick it up. Sometimes I hear things in other languages and I'm like, oh, I know where that comes from, or I think I can figure that out. But
so how many languages do you speak?
English, Italian are my fluent ones, and then you can't really speak it officially, but I count it anyway. Latin. I read it and I can translate it quite quickly and efficiently, because that was one of my former jobs, was actually a Latin teacher. But French, I do understand. I'm mostly fluent in that. I just sometimes get a little shy when trying to speak back, because I feel like I have an accent and it embarrasses me. But I know that I probably don't. It's just maybe a mental thing. But other than that, I do understand Spanish quite well as a couple other random tidbits of some languages here and there. But those are the ones I claim for myself.
So Italian is really your kind of you.
And the reason for that is because my mother remarried when I was about 3 or 4 to my stepdad, and he is from Italy, essentially. His father moved here to Massachusetts. I can't remember exactly when, and that's where he ended up getting married, settling, having my stepdad and his family, and they would go back and forth to Tuscany. They live in Lucca, and my mom, when she remarried, they decided, oh, you know what, maybe that's where we should go, and so we moved there when I was about 4 or 5, I want to say.
I can imagine your mom as an anthropologist.
Right. Well, that's what she loves, the classics. She has a degree in that, and she was a Latin teacher for a short time before we moved. I do remember sometimes popping in on her classes and sitting in the corner doing my coloring books before I could really go.
You were kind of soaking it up from an early age. I love it.
Exactly. Yes. And so we moved to Tuscany, and I was unceremoniously dropped into Italian school, just, sink or swim. But I think I had some tutoring a little bit.
I mean, I know international schools have existed for a while, but it wasn't so much, or people were not necessarily aware of that so much, or it wasn't accessible to everyone.
Right. I think the closest one for us was in Florence.
Okay.
So it didn't make sense to go there.
But also, it's, as a parent, you don't necessarily think, you kind of think, oh, but we'll live there. We want to be local. We want to be integrated into the local community and learn the local language. Yeah, sink or swim, like you said.
I remember that distinctly.
So you basically had to learn Italian.
I did, and I did. I basically was dropped in there. The weird thing, the difference between, I guess, schooling here and schooling there is that I think how they divide the years up is by the actual full year. So if you're born in the year, like me, 1994, everybody from that year is in the same grade regardless. They don't cut it off at August.
September or August,
they don't do
that. That's interesting.
So they said when I got there, because the move kind of took so much time, I would have basically skipped first grade, and they were like, no, you don't, we're not going to hold you back, because then you will be the oldest person in your class, pretty much.
Oh my goodness.
So just go in with your fellows. I know that's skipping a grade, but technically, because you didn't physically attend first grade, but you'll still be in the same group as your peers. So they kept me in second grade and not knowing the language whatsoever. So I just kind of was like, oh boy.
So do you remember that time, or was it kind of?
It's kind of a blur, but I remember the first day, because that was, I don't want to say traumatic, but it was definitely a moment in my life.
You would probably call it traumatic now.
So
it's
probably.
I can imagine. Yeah.
And then I do remember the day, I want to say 2 months later, when I realized, oh my God, I understand what they're saying. I understand Italian and I'm speaking it. I remember that because I was running down the hallway of the school and I was like, hold on a second. I understand what everyone's saying around me. But I don't remember anything in between that, really.
Yeah.
So, and then I just remember, of course, what you do as a child, like for distinct instances throughout school. But it was definitely weird. And I think I wrote about this in my college essay, actually, or one of them, that growing up there as the international student is so different than what you expect when you're meeting international students here in America. Yeah. So, because you're the American kid.
It's interesting, though, because I hear that from a lot of people, parents of TCKs, that their children use a lot of their experiences for the college essay. And I've heard parents say, oh my God, I had no idea how my child actually felt until I read their college essay. And that's, sometimes 10 years later. And then you think, oh, wow, there's a lot that happens that probably also very young children don't necessarily have the words to express. And
I was a very expressive child, to differ from this. I was talking when I was 8 months old, I want to say, and I was reading.
You're a linguist. You're a linguist, clearly.
I was very verbose as a child, and so my mother knew exactly what was going through my head most times. The one thing that now as an adult, we've both kind of like, oh my God, that's what I was doing, because even I didn't realize it. I was subconsciously doing this. I was very smart. I was very good at school. I liked school and I was wanting to prove myself and be a good student. However, because I was the weird outsider, I didn't want to get additional praise. And so what I ended up doing, which I have records of this, I still have my old report cards from those days. And I read what the teacher said. I was like, God, I basically would stop halfway through the last couple of problems or assignments and just not finish them, because, and it was a subconscious thing, like, oh, I don't want to have like a perfect score here. I'm going to just stay under the radar for a minute and not,
wow, that's interesting.
And so the teachers were like, she would just leave part of it not done, or, she'd have one or two little mistakes, but it wasn't past, the point where they were like, it's weird. And they told my parents that, and they couldn't figure, they just thought, oh, you're just being lazy, or you just want to go amuse yourself and entertain yourself and not finish your homework. And so that was I couldn't quite express maybe that as a kid.
That's really, really interesting. And I guess also frustrating probably for your parents sometimes.
Yeah, they didn't know what was going on with that. But whenever we did decide to move back to the States, it was a family reason, because my stepsister really, but I call her sister because when you integrate the family at such a young age, that's what you are. She wasn't with us most of the time because her mother lived here in Austin. And so she wasn't able to always come and visit. She could come during the holidays, maybe like summer vacation, that sort of thing. But it was taking a toll on all of us to be not a fully integrated unit. And so we moved back to Texas, to College Station, to be close to her, and eventually we got custody of her as a result, because we were close enough that her mom could still get her to come visit.
And how old were you when you came back to
We finished
Texas?
elementary school for me, and so I started 6th grade here in Texas, and from that point on we would just go back and visit during summer vacation pretty much every year. We would go to Italy and stay for the whole time, and it was very eye-opening for me when we came back as well, just because it's such a different schooling system, and that was a huge shock because you kind of are prepared in Europe to go into either a trade, or you choose your path for what kind of school you're going to go to. For example, in middle school there, you're still kind of taking all of the classes, but once you get to high school, you go to the scientific school, you go to the art school, you go to the literature and classics school, or you go to the trade school or technology school, whatever, but you don't get all of it. And that's what we had here in the States. You have to just take everything. And that was not something I really enjoyed.
Well, so I think that is just one of the most difficult things anyway, just different countries and different systems. How was that? I mean, obviously coming back into middle school is pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Anywhere. I think it's probably the worst.
It is.
3 years, that's kind of what age? 12, 13?
Yeah, it's
14.
The years where puberty really wrecks you.
it's almost like those years it's bad wherever you are. But to throw in a move and kind of take you out of your environment.
So I think they did it at a really good time because it wasn't in the middle of it. Yeah. It was right at the start of middle school.
Yeah.
Officially.
So at least there were other kids who started the new school with you, which is huge, definitely.
We ended up going to a private school first because they were like, I don't know about public school just yet. We need to think about that. Just because we're already doing a big shock. Let's at least do it in a more like contained manner, I guess. But we went to a private Catholic school in College Station, Brian. It ended up being kind of ridiculous because the first year was fine. The second year, my mom ended up becoming the Latin teacher there. So my mom worked at my school. Okay, that's not very uncommon, sure. The following year, my dad became the school principal. So, okay, maybe that's a little more than normal for most kids. It's like, oh my God, my mom works here, my dad works here. I have to be perfect.
So again, you're the different person.
Again, yeah. I had no way to really express myself beyond that, and being, perfect grades, constantly, in uniform, because you'd get written up if you weren't, and just doing everything to maintain that. And of course, I didn't care really at the time because I knew I was a little weird. So I was like, I'm fine. I don't mind. And I, like I said, I liked school. I wanted to do well. I wanted to prove myself to, I don't know who, my family, myself, maybe, I don't know. But I was there until, I think I stayed 1 year of high school there. So freshman year of high school, and then we all left. We all said, that's enough. They quit, and then they took us out, and we went to public school after that. And so I finished my high school years at a public school, which let me kind of breathe a little bit, but I was still kind of, the jaded, grumpy high schooler. I finally got to be that kid a little bit more, which is fine. Everybody kind of goes through that, I'm sure, in their own way.
And then what happened? So you graduated from high school in College Station? And
I stayed there. I went to A&M.
So how come? Because it's almost like, wouldn't it be something, you wouldn't be interesting, or would you not kind of want to go?
It's mainly practical reasons, really. Of course, yes, I would. And I mean, I think I wanted, and I first was gearing myself towards the international studies program at A&M anyway, because I'm like, I need to get out. But it was mainly just practical because we had a house there, and we also had an apartment that they had purchased as kind of a long-term investment, so that if we did go to college, we could just go there. And I basically lived there in our own home.
Yeah.
But not with my family. So, and then my sister also went to A&M, and she lived as my roommate once she finally got around to it. So yeah, we just kind of were being practical there. And
yeah, but also kind of nice. And this, I think the experience of being apart from family in the young years can be really traumatic and very stressful and very very sad sometimes too, and you feel like you're missing out. So I can imagine that it's then to be reunited with your sister and then even living together. I can imagine that was really a nice feeling after all that time.
After all of the other crazy roommates that I had, I was so grateful for her to come in there and take over. That's
another advantage, I guess.
We still went to Italy most summers. Even during college, I would still try. I mean, it just so happened that I was in a long-term relationship with an Italian at that time. So it made it even more of a purpose for me to try to go back and forth.
Okay. That was going to be my next question, that because you left, I want to say, I mean, you were not super young when you left Italy, but you were pretty young. So how did you maintain your friendships, or did you maintain friendships from that point?
Well, or technology was helpful. Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Absolutely.
I mean, how could we do this without all the technology? You know, I ask myself that every day. Well, I'm grateful for it, but I'm just imagining you at A&M as this international person, and then you're surrounded by
the people of College Station.
and I mean also students from other places.
For sure, yeah.
But maybe a much less international setting than maybe a school in San Francisco or New York would be, you know. And so how did you find yourself kind of gravitating more towards international people, or was it just?
I had the most unorthodox college experience, I think. I started my schooling taking one of those placement tests for the Italian program, and they basically gave it back to me and said, look, we can't give you the full credit for the whole program because some things you're still just going to have to take, but we gave you credit for all of the language, like learning courses at least.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, you can come and take basically senior level classes as a freshman. So I said, okay. And so I started with that, and then eventually I became one of the professor's TAs because she was like, obviously you know what you're doing. So as a freshman I was a TA, which was weird, and everyone I felt a little weird because I'm tutoring people older than me by a lot, and that was odd. Other than that, I had a hard time figuring out what I wanted to do. I tried the French course, but learning French in a classroom setting just was not for me. It made me so frustrated. So I did not want to do that anymore. And eventually I settled on, okay, well, I love writing. I love literature. I'll just go for the English program. And I got my minor in Italian and master's in English and literature. And so that was what I ended up settling for, but it was a lot of bumps to get there, to figure out exactly what I was, I guess, best at. And I still am curious because I'm still learning every day, like what I'm good at. But A&M was not necessarily the best place for somebody like myself, but I also probably didn't try too hard to find a niche at the same time. I don't know. There was a couple small groups, like Italian groups maybe, that were there, and eventually we found a couple of them, but I mainly just hung out with my parents at the Brazos Progressives meetings, which was a bunch of like the faculty of A&M and their kids and friends and things, and we'd have a potluck, and just that was where I got my cultural and intellectual stimulating conversation, was from faculty. So
that's so interesting, but I think it also totally makes sense, because there's so much of a discrepancy in people's experience, I think,
Mm-hmm.
when you have been exposed to all that, and especially I guess with parents in an academic setting,
Mm-hmm.
and being someone who takes to learning very well and kind of soaking up all that, and then be surrounded by people who just have had a completely different
Yeah.
experience growing up. I can, yeah, I can
Mm-hmm.
totally get that.
I also never did the dorm thing, so that might have been another
Mm,
contribution because I did not have
you
any
didn't, well,
interest in doing that.
you didn't need to because you had the house. But
Exactly.
yeah, there's so much focus in the US on especially your freshman year at college and the dorms and all that. It's
Mhm.
just that's what it's all about. It's not really, no one is really that interested in what subject you're
It's a
actually
social thing for
studying. It's a
sure.
social
And
thing, but I feel like there's a lot of bonding that happens
mhm.
in that kind of first
And I
freshman year. And
skipped that. I absolutely skipped it. I don't know what that was, but I maintained a few friends from my public school,
Mhm,
high school days, and I stayed friends with a few of them. I'm still
mhm.
friends to this day. We still chat occasionally. But past that, because
Yeah.
everybody stays in College Station, that's the thing. If you're there, you stay there for the most part. If you get out, then good on you. But most people like it there. It's it fits their lifestyle, and that's perfectly fine. I was not a fit for that, however. So
Mhm,
eventually, I started on a master's program once I graduated,
mhm,
but I said, I need some life experience because I don't know if this is actually the path I want to take. So I'm
mhm,
going to pause that. And I moved here to Austin 3 years ago, just about. And ever since then, I've been just kind of figuring out what
mm,
direction to go because I don't know. I think once again, maybe it's a thing here, maybe it
mhm.
is all over the place. It's different everywhere, but figuring out exactly what you're going to do with your life is not easy,
Yeah,
and
I still
yet
don't
people
know.
expect it.
I still don't know. I have a feeling that you will probably end up going back to Europe at some point, just to see what it feels like.
Hmm. It's
'Cause
been, oh my gosh, I want to say it's been for sure past 5 years. We're going to approach 6 since I've been over there, which was it's so strange, and it
mhm,
upsets me greatly that it's
mhm.
taken this long. But that sometimes it happens, and life
Yeah.
kind of takes over, and I
Well, yes, and you
just
have to make a living. So that's, I
I
mean,
have
number
to
one,
work. Yeah.
it's, yes, you have to work, exactly. So, but I get, and also right now is just, it's probably not the best time to plan
No, of course.
um
Right now. Ooh.
anything. It's just, I mean, there's
Mhm.
no good place to be at this point in time. And I know
Mhm.
I mean, Italy was hit horrendously hard,
It
especially in the
really
early days.
was.
And
My mom was stuck there that entire time.
oh, wow.
So she couldn't come back. She got there, I want to say early February. And that is, of course, as we know, when it really
Yeah.
started to knock things
Hmm.
around. And she was stuck as a result until July and couldn't come back until then
Hmm.
because her flights kept getting canceled or
Yes.
pushed back, or they were trying to send her
Mm-hmm.
through all these places that were potentially dangerous, like the connecting
Mm-hmm.
flight through New York City in the height of the pandemic. And she's like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Luckily, they made it back over there. My dad this time with her because the whole time they were apart, and that was
Hmm.
the hardest part because she
Oh my
was she was
goodness.
safe
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
happy
But
because we have a lovely home there, and she got to hang out in the beautiful garden with delicious food. But
oh
it's
yeah.
kind of not as great when you're separated from your
Hmm.
husband. So she was a little like, well,
Yeah.
next time if we make it back here, he's coming with me, and that's what happened. And
Yeah.
I just chatted with them a few minutes ago, actually, and they were having dinner, and he's so happy to be there now.
Yeah.
So they made it back. They're gonna quarantine for the 2 weeks, and then eventually they think they have to get their test again,
Yeah.
or I think they get it in a week, and then they still stay
Hmm.
depending on the results for another
Yeah.
week, and then they're able to.
So, and what about your sister? I remember you saying your sister was back in
My
Europe.
sister is in Madrid. She is, I think they might be going into lockdown again too, or
Hmm.
something, from what I've heard. But she's living there. She works for a university, and I think, happy there because she's with her boyfriend and they have a dog and they have this cute little apartment. So she's doing well. And my brother, this is the son of my mom and my
Mm-hmm.
stepdad. They had him about when I was about 6.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in college and he's going to Maastricht. And so he's over there as well.
Yes, that's funny because that's, I think, one of those places that is full of international kids.
Yes, so he's thriving over there for
That's
sure.
amazing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what's even cuter is that he, I think, did the student housing for the first year, maybe something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he eventually got a little apartment and has a roommate. And that roommate is one of our expat families' sons that they've known each other since they were like babies. I'm not even kidding.
Oh, I love it.
They've known each other forever,
Yeah.
been friends forever, and their family lives in Lucca as well, and they're
Mm-hmm.
Norwegian and British. So they were friends with us. Obviously, we have a little tiny community over there for sure.
It's one of those things with the in the expat world, I think, where you're so much more aware of other people's
Mhm.
backgrounds, and then just
Yeah.
kind of helping each other out and making those connections. And
Yeah, everybody knows someone else that they're
Yep.
like, oh yes, let me
Mhm.
introduce you to this person
Yeah.
who, guess what, they're also from somewhere else.
Yes.
So,
But that's and it's one of the advantages, I think, really, to have like a network worldwide. So if you ever wanted to go somewhere, you'd probably be able to find people helping you along the way.
I'm definitely settled for now,
Mhm.
but it's not something that I'm definitely, I don't want to get my own hopes up, and I don't
Mhm.
want to,
Yeah.
get too into it because there's so much uncertainty right now.
Absolutely. But
And
something
I just don't know what I'm doing with my life yet.
Yeah.
So
well, I think write that book. That's a good just
Yeah.
just even about your own experience, because really there's a lot of parent expat groups
Mhm.
and people talking to each other, and including myself, and talking to other parents and educators and psychologists and all that. But I think this whole generation of TCKs, of kids who have gone
Mhm.
through it, because we as adults, we make those, we get a job offer and then we move and we make those
Yeah.
decisions. But as a child, you don't really have a say.
No,
And
you have to
that's
do it.
what happens to you emotionally and all that. It's a huge thing.
Oh yeah.
And being thrown into a new language at a young age is also
That was definitely shaping to my own personality for sure.
Let's talk about a few more funny things.
Yeah.
Do you have any funny story or any kind of like embarrassing thing that happened to you along the way?
There's definitely one, and it's appropriate for this time of year since we're in October and it's Halloween upcoming. But pretty much whenever we moved over there, we had such a hard time figuring out the holidays and how they worked at first, because we had just come from America and it's pretty obvious. Okay, we have, Valentine's Day, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Halloween, all of these things are very clearly happening the same time that they always do. And what
and
you're
they're
supposed to do
done a
with
certain way,
Yes.
exactly what to expect.
Yeah, Thanksgiving does not exist over there, obviously. Valentine's Day is different. Easter is extremely different, even though it's the same holiday, because you're in the land of Catholicism, it's extremely different. So we were all sitting around trying to figure all this out, and I still have to go to the school. And figuring out exactly when things happen is not easy, because someone's going to tell you something different. Just to go with the Italian stereotype, it's kind of chaotic. But we had planned, to do our Halloween decorating for the house, because I love Halloween. I'm obsessed. I've decorated our whole house. It's fine. But over there, it just doesn't really exist. I think that might have changed now that it's become more of a thing. And with the internet and people able to like look into it more, they've probably done more about it. And even as I was getting older and just going back every so often or seeing people on Facebook, even when I was here, I noticed, okay, people are doing more things for Halloween now. But when I was a child, that was not the case.
No.
So we were the only people that had our house decorated, and everyone thought we were nuts, probably. But what's embarrassing was that I went to school one day in my costume because they said, okay, we are doing a Halloween costume day where everyone can wear their whatever they're going to be. And they just didn't have a specific, like a pamphlet or a flyer. No, we just didn't know when it was happening. And they told us this day or that day, whatever. And I just, was preparing to go for one day. My mom helped me. I was a little witch, and she, made my hair all fluffy, and I had my whole costume on, and I show up and nobody's in their costume.
Oh no.
I was so embarrassed.
That's traumatic.
As a second grader, you just don't know how to even cope with that. And so I just went home. She walked me in, of course, but then she saw, oh, nope, okay, we're turning around and we're leaving. She let the teachers know. She's like, you did not tell me what day this was happening, and this is what happened as a result. So I just didn't go to school that day. I was so mortified. But then the day that it actually did happen, I just didn't even do it. I said, no, I'm upset. I'm not doing this. Even though I love Halloween.
Oh my God, that's heartbreaking. But
the redemption arc does exist. And later on every year, since we were then from that moment on known as the crazy Americans who do all the Halloween stuff, we were then asked for advice on planning the school's Halloween parties. Therefore,
that's great.
It was okay later, but in the moment I was horrified.
I can imagine. But then kids can be so cruel too.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was a little dork growing up. I had glasses. I had short, kind of cropped, bowl cut hair. It was just, oh my God. I had to be very tough as a child and just get through it. But especially because the Lucchese have a saying that the walls of Lucca, the mura, are wrapped around their brains. Yeah. They're very close-minded people. So it was definitely a rough patch. And I made a couple friends, but that was it throughout that entire time. And I stayed close with them mostly throughout coming back. There was one person that I was friends with consistently, but now we've eventually just not kept up. So it's been hard to maintain those. And most people that I meet here are like, oh yeah, this is my best friend since we were like 3, and we're still, I'm like, I don't know what that's like. I don't understand that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a typical experience, I think, for someone like you, who's moved a lot, to just not have those early deep connections.
That's true for my brother and sister for sure, because they had kids their age, so it worked out. But I was just and I had I'm still friends on Facebook with most of these people, but that doesn't quite.
No,
it's not exactly the same. So
no, and it's one of those things that you notice now. I feel like after how many months has it been now? 6-7 months of being in one place, really, and then all of a sudden you do realize how those Facebook connections are not really.
It's kind of an album.
It's
really.
A little crutch sometimes, but it's not really a replacement for the real connections. And
sometimes I do try to ping people, but I feel so awkward sometimes. So I just don't know.
And I guess also that's in my experience, very often it's you who has to really work at it and make the effort, exactly, because a lot of people who haven't ever had to deal with changing locations and different countries and just haven't had the experience of trying to maintain long distance relationships. And I think that's one thing we definitely learn along the way.
It's true,
but it does come at a price. So
it does, that's for sure. And I guess one of the things that I do appreciate after living here for quite some time now is in the past, I want to say 5 to 8 or 9 years, not quite 10, but just under that. I've made some really good friends here, and I've still maintained some of these friendships for a long time.
Nice.
And that's never happened for me. Very realistically, it's always been, oh yeah, I see these people when I'm here and I see these people when I'm there, but it's never close enough to count. And my mom said the same thing to me. She said, I could count on one hand the people that I consider that close, even though you might think otherwise. So
absolutely. And we make so many new connections along the way all the time, but it's very difficult to actually make new friends and maintain friendships. And but yeah, it's never, I mean, you have so much time to do that. And I feel it's like I'm make myself sound really old now, but I've really found that you can make really good friends as you get older, even if you don't have the same background or the same kind of childhood experiences. You can still, it still happens very rarely, and it's very hard to make it happen, but it does happen because you're used to having to make the effort. So that's a good start.
Believe me, I am.
Well, yeah, and you, when you said you going back to Italy like every summer and for weeks and all that, and
having to make the reconnect every time.
Whereas
I am
other
here.
people, whereas other people might not come and visit. So it's a lot of,
they don't know. Oh, well, yeah, you have to make the effort. And I've become that friend, even in all of my friend groups. Everyone asks me, what's the plan? What's happening? What do you know, and I'm expected to kind of have it. And I don't mind doing it because I guess maybe it's because I'm a Virgo. I like organizing things. So I'm not upset about it.
But and I've found that sometimes because we did that, we going back to the UK every summer, in Germany too, but I've always tried to organize like a meetup with people and say, hey, this is where we are, that time would be great to see you. And then sometimes people would come and then they'd see each other there as well, and they'd be like, oh my god, I haven't seen you in ages. I'm thinking, but you only live like 10 miles apart from each other. How can you not
I'm that person. I have connected everybody, it feels like, and I'm like, what?
So there you go. That's
you
a skill.
All live here.
That's a
You're
skill.
All friends, I thought.
Because you recognize that need, and you know that it takes organizing, and I think we do become a lot more proactive in that, tackling that kind of thing. So
no, it's surreal because I saw a Facebook photo from a long time ago of, I think it was my birthday celebration in Italy years back, and it was so weird to see all of these people that I know all in the same picture, just all hanging out to get from all the different groups and things.
Yes. Oh, that's so nice.
Just like, whoa, I forgot that everybody came to this. This is so strange, you know? So it's a funny feeling for sure.
I mean, I've not done this, and I kind of think I should maybe, because now with Zoom, if you use Zoom to get all those different people from your different lives together, you could do that. And I'm kind of, so my daughter did it. Because I went to her room the other day, and there were different voices. There were British voices and American voices coming from her room. And I was like, what? Who? And she's like, happening? Oh yeah, there's all these different people. And they hadn't ever met in person, but they were all in this Zoom meeting. And I was like, this is amazing. I should absolutely do that.
That is a good idea.
There is the technology is there. It's just, we have to make it happen. So maybe
make the effort.
Make the effort.
It's true.
So is there anything you really, really miss about Italy? Is there anything that you do when you, when you want that connection and you just feel like, I have to have this now, whether it's a recipe or tradition or something that you do, or maybe your family does and has kept? I
am kind of the angel and the devil of this household that I live in because of how much pasta I make all the time. Everybody who lives here is mostly trying to diet or on some sort of cleanse or whatever, and I just ruin that for everybody most of the time.
You can't be against pasta.
I know. I make pasta, if not a couple times a week, like most of the days of the week.
Do you make pasta? Do you make it yourself?
I haven't gotten to that point yet in this house, but I want to eventually just expand all of my cooking to
Mm-hmm.
the next level any chance that I can, because it's so relaxing and fun for me to just bake and make giant pot roasts or a
Yeah.
full thing of lasagna, whatever. I want to go and just absolutely
Mm-hmm.
bake my heart out whenever I can. And there's so many recipes,
Yeah.
especially for the holidays, that I love to pull back out,
Yeah.
because it's not necessarily just Italian stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also the Greek cookies and the French recipes from all the
Mm-hmm.
different parts of my culture. And then the Texan stuff from my grandma, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. And this last Christmas was the first year that they kind of passed the torch on to me hosting it here. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, I have to do all of this perfectly. And we had a great time. And so stuff like that is what I do enjoy
Mm-hmm.
from just, I don't know, it's so maybe expected, but food related things are what make me
But
happy.
I think
But
it's sensory things anyway. I think it's
you're right.
because it's that instant, whether it's a smell or a taste. I think that just takes you back
Yeah.
to different places.
Films and music too are very helpful
Mm-hmm.
for me, and
Yeah,
at the same time I
that's what
cry
I
like a
do.
baby most
Yeah.
times too.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's like I start crying at a scene where it's just like they're just doing the scenery, or they're like going down the streets of the village or something, and I'm just boo-hooing, and Brandon, my boyfriend, will look at me like, what is the matter with you? It's a road. I'm like,
Yeah.
it looks just like the roads
Yeah.
where I grew up, just crying my
I
heart
love
out.
that.
It's so
And
funny.
hearing the language as well, I think, right?
Yeah.
When you watch a movie,
Mhm.
and you hear an expression that you haven't heard,
Yes.
and you're like,
Yes.
oh, yes. I'm the
Mhm.
same, and I watch the silliest German movies sometimes completely by myself, because and it's not even a good movie or anything, and I'm just like,
Exactly.
I just need to listen. And yeah,
Mhm.
I'd kind of have that same
Oh
reaction.
yeah. I love to listen to Italian music and French
Hmm.
music, and it helps me also because I have a deep fear of forgetting,
Hmm.
because of it's been so long, and because of the weird way that I learned the
Hmm.
language was only in elementary school education, and then just like colloquialisms. So I didn't learn proper grammatically correct adult Italian, and so that
Yeah.
freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah, but I think
So
you have the foundation,
yeah.
and you can take it to another level. It's just it's
Hmm.
different. It's when you look at your language in a different way, from
Right.
a like an external
Because
point of view. It's very
hmm,
tricky and very strange, and also because
yeah,
the language changes over the
it
years, and then
does.
you
It
and when
does.
you're not there and you hear someone say something, you're like, is that how you say it now?
Is this the new
Is this the new way?
slang
Yeah.
here? I don't know. Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because um, I have a love-hate relationship with how people see me here as
Hmm.
well. Whenever I do go into my weird little,
Hmm.
international person moments, because most of the time I get teased for it, and sometimes I get,
Yeah.
oh, that's so interesting, but
Are
it's
they
rare.
because
It's
that's
rare.
actually one of the questions I have written down
Oh
here.
yeah.
So, are there any questions or statements people make or ask you that you find really annoying? I have it
Well,
written
there's a
down here because
few. Absolutely.
yeah.
There's the typical one that, which one's better? That sends
Yes.
me onto another plane of irritation,
Mhm.
because it's so hard to compare that you can't. And I always say that. I say you can't compare it
No.
really at all. Because the idea of a country in itself being exceptional or greater than another one
Mhm.
is just crazy to me. It's not. It's so different, because everything has its ups and downs,
Uh-huh.
no matter what, no matter how perfect you think a place is, it's really not. There's a few
Mhm.
other problems that you're probably ignoring or not
Mhm.
remembering, whatever, and that's fine, but you can't just, you know,
Yeah.
expect someone to answer that. And if they do, then you have to really ask, okay, why did you answer it that way?
Mhm.
Because there's got to be some stuff that you're leaving out here.
Yeah.
So that is the first thing. And the second thing is whenever I get called pretentious or made fun of whenever I talk about things from another country, because the Italian American culture is so different than a true, Italy Italian culture. And when I try to explain that to people, they're just like, oh, it's because you lived in Italy, haha, and you just know everything, and haha. And I'm like,
it's a tough one. It's also, and again, this is why making local friends is harder, because and people ask you something, and then you start talking about your experience, and you can see it in people's eyes. Like you said, some people are like, oh, that's so interesting, amazing, and other people are just like, oh, stop talking.
Or they're like, oh, well, aren't you just a privileged person? They get all jealous about it. And I've learned that's what it is. And I've learned not to feel bad about it, because it's a part of me. And the thick skin that I had as a child has come back into play as an adult. Whenever, because I'm not going to dumb myself down and mispronounce things at a restaurant when ordering just to make other people feel better.
I can imagine. Yes.
I cannot do that. I refuse to do that. And in fact, whenever most waiters or people that I'm with are interested, and they're fine. It's, sometimes the company I'm with, they're trying to be smart and cute about it. That are like, oh, whatever, panna cotta. Oh, okay, or whatever. And I'm just like, yes, that is how you say it. That is how you say it. And you just kind of have to sit there and smile and
and think
grit your teeth.
And then you're like, this is exactly what I find the most annoying about this country. Just when people do this
instead of learning. And it's not cute. I'm not laughing. I'm smiling out of frustration right now.
But, absolutely. But I think, again, use your thick skin, and you have your people. You have your people who get you, and you will always find people who get you. And the older you get, the less you really care about the other ones.
Exactly.
It's just like, okay, well, don't then. It's not going to work.
The other thing that I thought was very interesting was the last time something like that happened, it's because I've kept it too close to my chest, and I haven't really explained, because if you've seen, it's taken us quite a bit to even get through my entire backstory of how all this happened to me. And so people just assumed that I was just pretentious, and they don't know, oh, you actually lived in Italy. Oh, I thought you just took Italian in school or something. That's what and I'm like, no, do you know me at all? No, I guess not. Thanks. It's not the case. So it's fine. It's not really their fault, but at the same time, it's like, do I have to do all the work here to, explain everything every single time? I guess maybe I do if I don't want this to happen, but I guess it depends on who you surround yourself with.
Yeah. And it depends on your mood too.
I don't normally like to talk. I like to listen.
Sometimes it's just like, you know what? I'm not doing this today. I'm not. And I went to a yoga class and I love yoga, and it was one of those teachers who's very, talks like that. And then she did that thing at the beginning of class where she had everyone introduce themselves.
Oh no.
And then we didn't have to hold hands, but it was, it was that kind of,
anytime that happens, I've dreaded it. I have dreaded it.
And I was like, oh God, it was like, I knew I needed the class because I'd had a really bad couple of days, and I was like, I need that. But this was a teacher that I don't normally go to anyway. And so I'm in there, and we go around the room, and everyone says their name and how they feel today. And then she comes to me and I say my name, and then she goes, oh, do I hear an accent?
No.
and then I was like, normally I would just be like, haha, yeah, I'm, I lived in but I just looked at her and said, I don't know. I can hear yours.
Ooh.
That's not done. You don't do that. And I was so
over it. Yeah.
And the whole room was just silent. And I thought, oh my God. And then someone started to giggle. And then the whole class was like, oh my God, yes, we all have accents, really, if you think about it. And I was like, yeah, just give me a break.
Yeah, just don't with me today. I know.
But I felt so rude.
Yeah. But sometimes it just, it's so irksome, especially because I don't think I just have a generic American accent. I don't think I have a Texas accent, even though I'm from Texas. So sometimes I make people like, oh, you don't sound like you're from Texas.
Some people are obsessed with I think pinpointing where you're from, because they have
Yeah.
to have that when they meet you. They have to know, they have to be able to put you in a box, and that's, you know, fine if that's how you
Yeah.
work, but I've always found it annoying. And
I say throw the box away. I'm
yeah,
not to be put
yes,
in a box.
that's right. And you can't, because it's as someone who's gone through so many moves and cultures and kind of adopted them, you just can't be put in a box. And but it's interesting because there's a definition I found, and I'm just going to read it because it's what is a third culture kid. And it's a third culture kid is an individual who, having spent a significant part of the development years in a culture other than the parent's culture, develops a sense of relationship to all of the cultures while not having a full ownership in any. And I think that's very interesting, because that's, in addition to being, you know, exposed to that, it just says that's, you know, you have kind of dipped your toe in, but you're not really fully.
No, and there's no way for me to really fully be that, no matter what I do or where I go. But I'm not upset at that, because it's very much me. To not,
I like that,
defined.
Absolutely. And it's throw the box away. I like that.
It brings me back to standardized testing too, you know.
Like
trying to define yourself in those few things before you start taking your test. And even just my full name wouldn't fit because of the family traditions that to be named in our family, we have 4 names plus our last name, because the first name is your name of your own, then your middle 2 are both of your grandparents' names. Whether you're a boy or a girl, you get whichever ones they have. And then you get your another family name, and it's like a great or a great aunt, great grandmother. Sometimes it's your godparent. You get another one, and then your last name. And so for me, I'm sitting there trying to fill out this stupid sheet with a bunch of boxes, trying to fit my names in there. And I'm like, well, what do I do if it doesn't fit? It doesn't fit. And they just look at me and they say, well, just put one in there, or
but which one?
Right, just write until it cuts off. And just like, I guess that's a very poetic moment where I don't fit into the box, literally and figuratively. I can't. My name will not fit here. So I have to embrace that and just
so what is your full name?
Full name is Sophie Justine Leanne Marie Durre. So there it is. It's a lot of names. And my younger 2 siblings on my dad's side have the same process for their names as well. So, and it's funny because most people I meet here, they either don't have a middle name or they just have one. And my brother from my mom and my stepdad, he has several middle names as well. And so does my stepsister, because her mother is actually from Finland and my dad's Italian. So it's the European naming thing. Just put as many names as can fit, I guess, versus here, just one or none. So it's a very interesting thing that we were talking about recently. So,
and then the nationalities as well. When it's like, what, you know, what nationality are you? And you just start going off on, like, I can't, which one? So you have to choose one, and it doesn't make sense, and it shouldn't be that way. You should never have to just fit in a box. So on that note, I think it's a great point to finish. I love that. It's a good message. Let's throw the box away. Let's not and let's just embrace who we are, and find people who are open-minded, and you will. There's plenty.
It's
out
the
there.
whole experience for myself has been generally helpful because it's enriched me culturally. It makes me a more interesting person, to be honest, and it just kind of gives me a broader sense of humanity with just others, because when you go to all these different places, you don't see the differences so much, like everybody here who tries to what are you, where are you from?
No, and you kind of, you get to look at yourself and all the different cultures that you've been exposed to. You get to see them from both the inside and from the outside too, which is a unique point, I think.
It's definitely helped me become more interested in the world as a whole, and not just
and in people and communication, and how different things work in different cultures. And
as soon as I'm able to travel again, I absolutely will.
well,
I'd love to. Even just to visit for 2 weeks would be, so revitalizing to me. It would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I just want to book a flight.
It's not if only.
Yeah. Well, it was really nice talking to you, Sophie.
Yes, I'm so glad you had me.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So that was my conversation with Sophie. It was so interesting to hear her perspective, her take on the whole moving experience, learning a new language and all that, and also what it's like to try and figure out what it is you want to do in life when you've had such a varied background. What I really loved and what I really felt came through in the way she described everybody was that huge amount of love and affection for her family. So I really think there's a very strong bond there. And I was very impressed by how much she has reflected on her family's journey and how it's shaped her and really ultimately enriched her life. That's a pretty mature statement for a girl in her mid-20s, don't you think? I have a few more episodes scheduled over the next few weeks, so stay tuned. Visit my website at transcontinentaloverload.com, sign up for updates, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. So that's it from me for today. See you next time.